The Arizona heat pressed down like a heavy blanket over the quiet desert town of Ashbridge. Ellie Brooks stood outside her garage, Brooks Auto and Repair, the sole mechanic shop within 50 miles. At 29, she had calloused hands, a sharp mind, and a heart shaped by solitude and steel. She ran the shop alone, fixing everything from old pickup trucks to overheated tractors. Most folks didn't expect the mechanic to be a woman, and definitely not one who could rebuild a carburetor with her eyes closed. She didn't mind. Let them underestimate her. She found peace in engines, their honesty, their logic. Business had been slow for 2 days. She leaned against her rusty toolbox, sipping warm iced tea, when she heard the low rumble of a motorcycle, staggered, sputtering, then silence. She turned to the road just in time to see a figure pushing a black Harley toward her in the desert sun. The man was tall, mid-40s, with graying stubble on his chin and a leather jacket that had seen better days. Dust clung to his boots, and sweat lined his brow as he pushed the heavy bike with effort. Ellie didn't wait for him to ask. She wiped her hands, tossed the tea aside, and stepped forward. "Looks like it's an overheated intake valve," she said, crouching beside the bike. Before he could speak, the man blinked in surprise. "You know bikes." She didn't even look up. "Better than most men I've met." He smirked slightly, half amused, half intrigued. "Name's Sam." She nodded, still inspecting. "Ellie." The name seemed to stick between them like a handshake. He moved to help her, but she raised a brow. "I've got this." Something about her presence, the confidence in her tone, the ease with which she held a wrench told him to step back and let her work. Ellie wheeled the Harley into the shade of the shop. Her hands worked quickly, precisely. "Been on the road long?" she asked while checking the valves. Sam nodded, removing his jacket. "Cross-country ride. Break before business gets loud again." She didn't ask what business he was in. She didn't care. The roar of engines mattered more than suits or titles. Sam watched her work in silence. She was unlike any mechanic he'd ever met, gritty, but graceful, focused, but warm. Ellie ran diagnostics, cooled the valve housing, and checked the plugs. "You've been riding too hard in this heat. These bikes weren't built for rides without a breather," she muttered, almost scolding the machine. "Sounds like you're talking to it," Sam said. She glanced at him. "Machines talk back, if you listen." Sam smiled. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, he felt calm. Not because of the repair, but because of her. After nearly an hour, Ellie stood, wiping her hands on a rag. "She's good now. Let her idle for a few minutes, then ease into the throttle. And don't gun it till you're out of the valley." Sam started the bike. The engine purred. "That's incredible," he muttered. Ellie leaned on the doorway, smirking. "Nah, just basic physics and patience. Most people rush things that should be listened to." He turned off the bike and pulled out his wallet. She waved it off. "Pay what you want, or don't. I've got enough grease to survive another week." Sam hesitated. "You sure?" She nodded. "You were stranded. I help stranded folks. Simple as that." Sam pulled out a folded $100 bill anyway and tucked it into her tool cart. "Then let's call it a thank you." Ellie accepted it without another word. She wasn't the type to argue over generosity, but something about this man stuck with her. As Sam prepared to leave, he looked back at Ellie. "You ever think about working on more than just old trucks and sunburned Harleys?" She shrugged. "Not everyone's chasing something bigger. I like small. I like real." Sam didn't push it. He just gave her a respectful nod and revved the engine. The Harley roared to life and disappeared down the highway, dust trailing behind like a whisper. Ellie stood there for a moment longer, watching until the sound faded. Then she turned and got back to organizing bolts by size, back to normal life, her rhythm of oil and solitude. But that night, something lingered. She found herself replaying the conversation, the way he looked at her, not with doubt, but with recognition. She brushed it off, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and turned on an old radio. Just a stranger, she told herself. One ride. Nothing more. Still, she couldn't stop thinking. Later that evening, as Ellie cleaned up the shop, curiosity got the better of her. She sat at her desk, opened her old laptop, and typed in "Sam motorcycle cross-country ride." It took a few minutes, but a photo stopped her cold. Same man, same face, same jacket. Sam Mitchell, founder and CEO of Mitchell Motors. Her heart skipped. She leaned back in her chair, stunned. The man she helped was the owner of one of the most successful motorcycle manufacturing companies in the world, a billionaire, and she'd treated him like any other guy broken down on the road. She hadn't asked for anything, didn't take a selfie, didn't beg for a job. She just fixed his bike and let him ride. Ellie shook her head, letting out a low laugh. Figures, I finally meet someone interesting, and he turns out to be famous. She didn't regret anything. She just wondered what next. The following morning came like any other. Ellie rolled open the garage doors and prepared for another slow day. But she moved with a different rhythm. Maybe it was pride. Maybe nerves. She kept glancing toward the road, half expecting that Harley to come roaring back. But hours passed. Just old pickups, locals waving as they drove by. Around noon, she sat on a stool in the shade and thought about her life. She never wanted wealth or fame, just respect, and maybe someone who saw her worth without her having to prove it every single time. That was the hard part, being a woman in a trade full of judgment. But yesterday, Sam hadn't doubted her. Not once. He saw her work and trusted it. That meant more than any tip or compliment. She looked at the highway again, still empty. With a sigh, she grabbed a wrench. There was still work to do. But deep down, something inside her had shifted. Ellie Brooks had spent years believing she was invisible to the bigger world. That talent in a small town didn't mean much unless someone important noticed. She never said it out loud, but she felt it every time a customer asked, "Is the real mechanic in?" or when job offers went to men with half her experience. But now she had helped someone who mattered in, not because he was important, but because she treated him like everyone else. That's what stuck with her most. Sam Mitchell wasn't her future. He was just the spark. The reminder that her work, her worth, didn't need a spotlight, it just needed space to breathe. And if the world came knocking, she'd be ready. But until then, she'd keep doing what she did best: fix engines, stay honest, and never apologize for knowing more than people expected. The week passed slowly after Sam Mitchell rode off into the sun. Ellie went back to her routine: oil, tightening bolts, occasionally stopping to swat the dust off her workbench. But something inside her had shifted. She found herself glancing toward the road more often, listening for the low thunder of a Harley. Not because she was expecting him, she told herself, but because, well, maybe she was. Each evening she'd check her emails, her phone, even social media, not looking for fame, but for a sign. Nothing came. It was business as usual in the town of Ash. But on the seventh day, just as Ellie was locking up at sundown, she heard that familiar growl, smooth, steady, unmistakable. The Harley pulled up just as the last sliver of sun dipped behind the canyon. And this time, Sam Mitchell wasn't alone. Two black SUVs followed, both with the Mitchell Motors logo on the side. Ellie stood still as the Harley came to a stop. Sam stepped off, removing his helmet. That same calm smile on his face. "Hope I'm not interrupting closing time," he said. She crossed her arms, half smiling. "Just another quiet night. Brought the cavalry this time." Sam nodded toward the trucks. "These are my people, team and development crew. I wanted them to meet the best mechanic I've encountered in years." Ellie raised a skeptical eyebrow. "You tracked me down just to compliment my wrench work," he chuckled. "Not exactly. I want to offer you something." One of the SUV doors opened, and a woman in a sharp suit handed Ellie a black folder. "This is a formal offer to join Mitchell Motors as lead engineer in a new initiative we're launching: rural talent development, woman-led garages, mechanical design, testing, all rooted in your kind of skill." Ellie's hand tightened on the folder. "You serious?" Sam nodded. "Dead serious. I've visited dozens of shops, but your instinct, your calm under pressure, your hands-on precision, you've got something even some of my top engineers don't." Ellie opened the folder slowly. Inside were schematics, job descriptions, salary packages. Relocation options, though, Sam quickly added. "You don't have to move. We'd actually prefer to build around your current shop as a pilot site. Rural America is where we want to grow next, and you're proof of the potential out here." Ellie stared down at the glossy papers, struggling to breathe. No one had ever offered her more than temporary contract work. No one had ever treated her as more than just the mechanic. Now here stood a billionaire offering her a future she hadn't dared imagine. "I'm not a college grad," she said softly. Sam replied, "Good, we've got enough of those. We need people who've lived the work, not just studied it." Ellie didn't answer right away. She closed the folder and motioned toward the shop. "Come inside. I don't make decisions under a sunset." The crew followed her in. The space was small but clean, functional, every tool in place. Sam looked around, nodding in approval. "I see your discipline even in the layout." Ellie turned to him. "Why me?" "Sam, I mean really, you could have picked anyone. Plenty of trained engineers, people with degrees, portfolios." Sam leaned on a workbench, his voice calm. "Because when my machine failed, you didn't hesitate. You didn't Google it, panic, or call for backup. You just trusted yourself. In this industry, that kind of instinct is rare. And I want to build a company that honors that kind of talent." Ellie felt her chest tighten. For so long she had believed that kind of recognition was reserved for others: men, suits, people who fit into corporate frames. But here it was. The meeting stretched into the night. Coffee was brewed. Diagrams were drawn. Sam's team asked questions. Ellie answered with ease. Before they left, Sam said, "Take time, a week, a month. We're not rushing you. But we're not just offering a job, we're inviting you to shape something new." The next day, Ellie stood alone in her garage, folder in hand, staring at the sky. Could she say yes? Could she step into a role that big? After all these years of working alone, surviving by grit, it scared her, but in a good way, the kind of fear that came with growth. She thought of all the girls like her who'd been told, "This isn't your place," and how maybe her saying yes would open doors for more than just herself. She wasn't just fixing engines anymore, she had a chance to fix the system that had kept her invisible. That realization settled in her bones. Later that evening, Ellie called her older brother, Jesse, a truck driver in Tennessee who'd always supported her. "You won't believe what happened," she said. After explaining everything, Jesse paused, then said, "Elle, you've always been building engines with nothing but scrap and soul. It's time someone finally saw that. If this is real, make noise, build something bigger." The next morning, Ellie stood in front of her shop with the Mitchell Motors folder in one hand and a wrench in the other. The sun had barely risen. Her boots scraped against the dirt. She looked at her name painted above the garage, faded but proud. With a deep breath, she walked inside and fired up the shop lights. She was going to do things her way. But this time, she wouldn't do it alone. She opened her laptop, typed a short message, and hit send. It read, "I'm in. Let's build." Within 2 days, Mitchell Motors announced a new pilot program, Project Torque, a nationwide initiative to train and invest in underrepresented mechanical talents, starting with a dusty shop in Ashridge, Arizona. The press caught on quick. "Female mechanic chosen to lead rural innovation," one headline read. But Ellie didn't care about headlines. What mattered were the young women who started emailing her. "How do I learn like you did? And they never took me seriously until I saw your story." Her inbox was full within 48 hours. Ellie spent her nights replying to every single one. "Don't wait for permission," she told one girl. "Just start, build, learn, they'll catch up." Sam sent her a message too. "Your shop is the heartbeat of this idea. We follow your lead." Now, Ellie stared at that message for a long time. Then she smiled, pulled her gloves on, and got back to work. The walls of her garage remained the same, but everything inside had changed. Mitchell Motors delivered new equipment. Engineers came for training. Ellie mentored local teens, including a few skeptical boys who quickly learned to respect the woman who could diagnose an engine by ear. But Ellie stayed grounded. She still fixed flat tires for free, still brewed her own bad coffee, and every now and then, when things got quiet, she'd step outside and stare down Highway 26, waiting for the next stranded soul. Because even with new titles, new money, and new recognition, Ellie Brooks hadn't changed. She was still the same woman who believed that one act of help could change a life. She just hadn't expected it would be her own. The transformation of Ellie Brooks' life became a story that extended far beyond the dusty roads of Ash. Within months, her garage had evolved from a quiet roadside shop into a living classroom for aspiring mechanics across the country. Cameras occasionally showed up, but Ellie never sought the spotlight. She remained rooted in what she knew, sweat and truth. The real satisfaction came when she watched young women walk into her shop with uncertainty and leave with oil on their hands and fire in their hearts. She was living proof that change didn't need to be loud to be powerful. Meanwhile, Mitchell Motors continued supporting Project Torque, with Ellie as its anchor and face. Sam checked in regularly, though rarely in person. Their relationship had shifted from chance encounter to trusted partners. Ellie respected him more now, not for his wealth, but for the fact that he listened when it truly mattered. One summer afternoon, a young girl named Bailey wandered into the shop. She was just 17, thin and awkward, with nervous eyes and bitten nails. Ellie looked up from under a hood and gave her the same smile she gave everyone, looking for someone. Bailey hesitated, then held out a notebook. "I've been trying to rebuild a lawnmower engine. I followed your online tutorial." Ellie took the notebook, flipping through the hand-sketched diagrams and smudged notes. "You did all this on your own?" Bailey nodded. Ellie handed her a wrench. "Then you're not here by accident. You're here because you're ready to learn." For real. That moment sparked something more than mentorship. It reignited Ellie's belief that the work she was doing had weight, that one good deed too. A stranger biker could ripple through lives she hadn't even met yet. And maybe, just maybe, this was what she was always meant to do. Despite the growing attention, Ellie kept her routine simple. She still woke up before dawn, swept the garage herself, and brewed the same weak coffee. The town hadn't changed much either, except now more people dropped by the shop not just for repairs, but for advice, encouragement, or just a dose of Ellie's quiet strength. On the first anniversary of Project Torque, Mitchell Motors hosted a special event in Phoenix, inviting all regional partners and mentors. Sam personally asked Ellie to give the keynote speech. She resisted at first. "I fix things. I don't talk about them," but he insisted, saying, "You didn't just fix my bike, you rebuilt my company's direction." Standing before a crowd of hundreds, Ellie wore clean overalls and boots. Her speech was short, raw, and honest. "They said women couldn't do this work. I didn't listen, and if someone tries to tell you that, you don't listen either." The applause afterward was thunderous, but Ellie didn't linger. She returned to Ashridge the next day, and immediately got back under a truck with a broken axle. Fame had never been her goal. She only ever wanted one thing, to be respected for what she knew and how she worked. But recognition, when it came, wasn't just about her. It was a door opening for hundreds behind her. Sam visited again that fall. This time, he brought his daughter, Olivia, quiet, tech-savvy, 22-year-old, looking for real-world experience. She wants to learn from the best, he said. Ellie handed Olivia a pair of gloves. Then she better get under that lift and stop talking. Olivia laughed, nervous but eager. That day, as the two women worked side by side, Sam watched from a distance. He realized that Ellie hadn't just fixed his engine that day on the road. She had fixed something broken in him, too. Perspective. Winter came quickly in Ash. One morning, Ellie opened the garage to find a small plaque mounted beside the door. She hadn't ordered it. It simply read, Ellie Brooks, mechanic, mentor, trailblazer, no logos, no fancy names, just the truth. She smiled, brushing snow from its edge. The town celebrated her in small ways. A coffee shop named a latte after her. The local high school invited her to speak during Career Week, and young girls now doodled wrench logos on their notebooks. But Ellie never forgot where it all began. One act of kindness, one busted bike, one stranger in need. Sometimes she wondered what would have happened if she'd ignored Sam that day, told him she was too busy, or charged him triple and sent him on his way. But she hadn't. She helped because it was right, and because she knew, deep down, that you never know who's watching. By the second year of Project Torque, Ellie had trained nearly 40 mechanics, half of them women, many from towns even smaller than Ash. She created training guides, online modules, and even hosted monthly wrench weekends where students from all over came to learn hands-on skills. The small town's economy had improved. More jobs, more confidence, and more respect for the grease-covered hands that kept the world moving. Ellie rarely paused to think about her success, but on certain quiet nights, she'd sit on the bench outside the garage, watch the stars blink over the desert sky, and reflect. She remembered what it felt like to be invisible, to be doubted. That memory never left her, and it kept her humble, because while her hands could build machines, it was her heart that built the bridge to something bigger than she ever imagined. Then one day, as spring warmed the desert winds, another rider came down Highway 26. It wasn't Sam this time. It was someone new, a woman in her 50s, stranded with a sputtering engine and uncertainty in her eyes. Ellie approached with a knowing grin. Overheated fuel pump, she said, squatting beside the bike. The woman blinked, stunned. How do you know? Ellie winked. I've seen this story before. As she worked, a few apprentices watched from the garage doorway. Bailey stood nearby, clipboard in hand, learning every step. The woman asked, do you always fix bikes for free? Ellie replied, I fix people first. The bikes come second. When the engine roared back to life, the woman was teary-eyed. Thank you. I don't know what I would have done. Ellie simply nodded. Just keep going. That's what roads are for. And once again, the story repeated another life, changed by a woman with a wrench. Years later, when Ellie retired, the garage remained. A non-profit was formed in her name, the Brooks Foundation for Mechanics and Mentors. It funded scholarships, supported women in trade schools, and offered free training for veterans. Though Ellie never called herself a hero, hundreds did. At the foundation's headquarters hung a photo of her handing a wrench to a young girl. Below, it read, she didn't wait to be chosen, she just chose to help. That was Ellie's fortune or fame, but the ripple effect of a single act of kindness. Sam Mitchell often said that meeting Ellie was the moment his company found its soul. But Ellie would say it simpler. I just did what I knew. Her journey wasn't about being discovered. It was about staying true, staying kind, and fixing what needed fixing. One bolt, one person, one day at a time.